Today, I'm going to run down everything you need to know about Glaivier so that you can RP like the red and the blue rangers at the same time.
What an ironic twist for Lance Master. Where did we end up?
But the video breakdown is going to be both PvE raid builds with their mobbing builds and the PvP build, with some tips that will give you the advantage to keep you ahead of the competition. And just like the other videos, I always try to keep you one step ahead. And all of these builds are going to be linked in the description as imager links. But just like the Zerker build, I'm going to do an updated build after Glaivier launches, just for all the name localizations and changes Amazon's going to do to the game. So if something ends up being different, just match the pictures. I know you can do it. But if you can't, we've got the entire Zerker gang in Discord, or should I say wholesome gang. Thank you guys for all the love recently. You've been absolutely amazing. And if you gain any value from this, I'd appreciate the sub. And don't forget, my name's Claysthetics, and we're running right into it.
And don't forget to like the video. It's the only way YouTube knows I exist.
And just so you know, we aren't capping. The Zerker gang has been going strong and is the strongest. But now we have to add the Glaivier gang into the mix. And with these bangers, we stayed ahead of everyone. But now it's your turn to become amazing with the rest of us. And for my fact checkers that are still running level 1 grudge with all these engravings that I know are going to be complaining that a Glaivier stole their significant other during a Yoho run, you can head over to loa.com, right click, go to English, click Spearman, and boom, you've got everything you need. Because it's going to take you to the top Glaiviers in KR, and I broke down the top 20 players' most consistent build across the board. And while there is 2 builds we're going to go over, I'm going to focus on the one I personally have the most fun with, and I think is better across the board simply because of utility. And it's got the big crits, and that's really what we're all about here. So starting off with our first and most meta build, the Climax. It also translates to Zenith and will definitely have another name on NA launch, of course, so that'll be updated in the pinned comment, and I'll be keeping all the text guides updated. But essentially, what Climax does is it makes our stance dance when we're in Moon or going to Sun even better, as long as we do it when they're maxed out with their full 3 charges, and is one of the most fun builds to play in the entire game. So I scaled down the 400 point build to a 340 banger and a 372 build. Obviously, if you're not 300 plus SP, you should stop here and go watch this video. It has every available skill point in NA and EU, and these are the mainstay of the build, and this class needs a lot of skill points to be good. But starting with the 304 SP build, it's going to look like this, and for me, this is budget skill points at this point. But if you need to go even lower, degrade Stampeding Slash to level 1, that will put you at 304 skill points. And if you are brand new with no skill points, degrade Wheel of Blades all the way down to row 1, and you'll get 260 skill points. And if you don't have 260 skill points, go get some help. Watch the skill point video. It's got all of them. But now for the real 348 build with all the power. And this is going to have almost everything we need to pop up. And starting with their stat line is heavy spec and light crit or swiftness. In NA and EU, we'll probably want crit off the rip. But as we get the later Legion raids with the better sets, we're going to be able to switch that crit over to swiftness. But now we're going to focus on a 70-30 ratio with specialization on every single piece, with crit being the off stat on your necklace. And now for our skills. And starting off with our ultimate, we're going to pick the red one. I am going to be reading something that's a little bit different from what you're going to see, but has a higher chance of being more accurate to what we're going to get on NA versus what the English patcher shows us. So our first skill is going to be Blue Dragon, then Wheel of Blades, then Stampeding Slash, Chain Slash, Flash Kick, Volt, Half Moon Slash, this is the tornado move that you know and love so much, and Raging Dragon Slash. So those were our moon skills. Now we're going to go over our sun skills, which we're only going to max 2 of, and the others are just kind of there, except for parry. So our first one is going to be Starfall Pounce, and our second one is going to be Red Dragon Flight. Now for our last red skill, which is probably one of the most important and best skills in the entire game, and our Gunlancer mains know this to be true because they have a parry just like this. Dragon Scale Defense is absolutely nuts. You don't need to put any points into it, but when you hit it, it is going to give you a fat shield, gives you level 2 impairment resist, and is going to let you avoid death in tons of situations, even in PvP.
And pretty much lets you stand in every negative effect in the entire game, as long as you're good with it.
I'll just show you how DPS rotation would go. You would just be spamming your skills off, starting with your Dragon Strike to get that extra crit chance, and you would want to go into red as soon as possible, max that gauge out, jump back, use your Dragon Strike again, and then ultimate. It's going to give you a ton of extra crit chance, and you're going to be deleting bosses with this. Just remember, Blue Dragon gives you bonus crit chance, and you can have this up the entire time you're in the blue stance, as long as you're running a ton of CDR. The text guide again has all the runes and gems, so when you need it, it's going to be linked in the description, including our engravings. And you're going to want to focus on Climax, Keen Blunt Weapon, Mass Increase, or Grudge. And personally, I like to use a mana efficiency increase. A lot of people cap on the mana return, but if you're playing at a really high level and you're not getting hit by anything or focused by a boss, you're going to have 0 mana in this build. And that's what I think our 4 best should be. And trust me, I know not a lot of people run mana regen, but I run them all the time on mine, and I can't cast skills. And if you can't cast skills, you're not doing any damage. But our last few, if you're not a mana believer, would be Raid Captain, and Cursed Doll. And just remember, 2 to 3 engravings is good enough for our current content, so don't waste too much gold unless you really do want to steal girls in front of Yoho, then wail away. Now for our cards, and our beginner set is going to be the Trixian card set. Our mid-range cards are going to be the Lost Wing Cliff, and our max Super Abyss cards are going to be the Light of Salvation, of course. Now for my guys with higher skill points, all the level 12 skills are basically just going to be our strongest DPS moves, and that's noted in the 372 plus text build guide in the description. But a great order to start in is with our 2 red skills and then Raging Dragon Slash, because they are our biggest damage. So our main goals with this build are going to be to focus on stance dancing with full charge on our identity gauge so that you can make the most out of the buff that you're going to get and fly higher than Bezos in his spaceship. As for our mobbing and chaos dungeon build, it's just some small changes to make you better at killing AoE groups of mobs. Not a lot of a difference, just some wider AoEs for trash. But now for our second build that is prospectively just as good as the first build, just minus the parry and massive crits. And it's Blue Lancer, also called like Temperance or Moderation. It will have a different name, but it basically just disables your red weapon slash glaive and makes you only able to cast blue skills, which literally makes you a spear master. And since the trade-off means that we can no longer jump into Sun Stance, we just get a flat 36% damage increase to all of our blue skills. And I know a lot of people actually don't enjoy stance dancing. So all these guys can just enjoy this build instead and still enjoy Lance Master Glaivier. But starting with our 312 SP build, it's going to look like this. And if you're brand new, you can just downgrade Wind Splitter to 268. Not that big of a deal. But again, don't sleep on those skill points. I got the best guides, got all of them. Don't worry about it. But the ideal loadout for a 340 plus build is going to have almost everything we need to pop off. But I also have a 376 build waiting for the homies that watch the skill point guide. So now for our skill rundown for Blue Lancer, and it's going to start off with the blue ultimate, of course, because if we're playing blue, we might as well go all in on the class fantasy. And in my opinion, it's the cooler ult of the two, and it just looks amazing. Now for the rest of our blue skills, we're going to start off with Blue Dragon. Again, our crit chance increase, Wind Splitter, Stampeding Slash, Moonblade Flurry, Chain Slash, Flash Kick, Volt, Half Moon Slash, and Raging Dragon Slash. Again, I know I didn't read the names that were on screen. I pulled them off of Papunika so that they would have more of a chance of being right when they go out on live. Now for the engravings we're going to want to focus on, and it's going to be Control, Ambush Master, and Grudge with Adrenaline or a Mana Recovery. And because the build is so spammy with late game CDR, I actually can't play blue without mana regen. So later on, when you get 6 engravings, you'll probably want to pick up Cursed Doll and Raid Captain too. And then I know not a lot of people run mana regen on like KR or anything like that. But if you are spamming single target and you can't cast, like it's actually a problem. And Blue Lancer is probably one of the most spammy when you get the higher CDR later on in the game. And currently in NA, there isn't any DPS breakpoints, so don't feel bad about not running Grudge. I know a lot of people don't like it. So you can pick 3 to 4 of any of the 7 I listed and be just fine. Just don't break the bank and you'll be okay. And our stat line is going to be Heavy, Swift, Light Crit. Again, every accessory with swiftness, and your offset on your necklace being crit chance, and you'll be good to go. And this build is actually really solid when you don't want to think and you actually just want to button mash. The only problem and biggest hang up about this build is you really need to be back attacking to make the most out of it, because if you're not back attacking, you're really not getting a lot out of the build. I think it's like 6 or 7 of the skills have back attack. So it ends up being a really big deal that you're always attacking from behind the boss, which isn't always realistic in most situations. So my personal preference is still the Climax build. Overall, I just love the feeling, the stance dancing, the combos between the blue and the red feel so good, and it really makes you OP. Feeling to have a parry is just the next level. But just like the big Zerker guide, I always like to include the alternative build, just in case somebody doesn't like the main build and they just want to run something a little off meta. So that way more people can feel involved and possibly enjoy a class they might not have even looked at before. And before I forget, the blue mobbing build really just swaps a couple of tripods for AoE stuff, and it's not something super crazy. Now we're in the home stretch for our PvP build, and we did a montage the other day, and it was an absolute fire throwback from the old days when we used to play KR all the time. Your main goals in PvP are going to be comboing your skills together in a way that lets you catch multiple people and get their dodge rolls and their CC rolls. That way your team can capitalize on that.
Or you can do it because, well, honestly, they're not going to.
So it really does a good job of solo carrying most PvP situations, as long as you're active about your CC and you're mindful of your cooldowns. So this is the text guide with everything you need to know. It's going to be heavy, swift, some dawn with 1 crit for the off chance that we hit it. The mobile tornado is honestly one of the best skills to carry 3v3 ranked with, in my opinion, and it just helps put your team in an amazing spot and you in an insane position to let you control the flow of the game. With the rest of your kit, you're going to be able to relocate and recatch anybody on the other team at any point of the game. And when you catch all 3 people, you're going to feel like an absolute legend. Even when you're not crushing AoE CCs into the enemy team, you're also an insanely strong duelist. and honestly, one of the most fun duels to play in the entire game. The amount of re-CC you can get on somebody like this is absolutely disgusting and basically just makes the game not fun for the other person. So with our insane movement and our low cooldown skills, which the swiftness helps even more, our PvP build feels buttery smooth, but not as smooth as these patrons. Thank you guys for keeping this train running. It means the world to me. And I'd honestly like to know what everybody's thinking about Glaivier. Are you planning on re-rolling it? Are you going to use that boost on another character? I know it's always been my like fourth alt, so I'm really finally happy to have it. And while it might be amazing, it's not really my true love.